Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. We're tackling dApps and DAOs this time.
Oh, yeah.
And I gotta say, even for me, this stuff can get a little, how do I put it? Head spinning.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a whole new way of thinking about, well, everything.
Totally. So to guide us through this, we're diving into, it's called A Noob's Guide to dApps and DAOs.
Catchy title.
Right. But seriously, don't let that fool you. This gets surprisingly in-depth. We're talking like really understanding how these things tick, what makes them special.
The nuances for sure. And believe me, there are plenty.
Our mission, should we choose to accept it, which we have, is to equip everyone listening with enough knowledge to not just survive a conversation about dApps and DAOs, but to actually impress someone.
Maybe even spark a healthy debate or two. You never know.
Exactly. All right, so let's start with the basics. When we say dApp, what are we even talking about? What makes an application a decentralized application?
Good question. It's not just about slapping a blockchain on it and calling it a day. This guide lays out some specific criteria. For starters, the code has got to be open source, right? Transparency is key here.
So anyone can look under the hood, make sure everything's on the up and up?
Exactly. And it can't have a single point of failure. dApps rely on distributed networks, not one server some company could just, unplug.
Okay, so that's the decentralized part. What else?
So native tokens. Gotta have those. It's like the fuel that keeps the dApp running,
Yeah.
Used for transactions, governance, all sorts of things.
Okay, makes sense. So we've got open source, no single point of failure, native tokens.
Ugh. Almost forgot a proof of value algorithm. Gotta make sure those who contribute to the dApp, they're rewarded for their efforts.
It's like building a whole new economy, but online.
Basically.
Yeah.
And, this guide mentions Johnston's Law, which basically says everything that can be decentralized will be decentralized.
Bold statement. But is that like a prediction, a warning, a promise? What are we talking here?
I think it's more like an observation, really. The benefits are hard to ignore. Transparency, security, giving users more control, that's powerful stuff.
I can't argue with that. But we've been saying dApps like it's just one thing. Aren't there different types?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This guide actually talks about how dApps exist on a spectrum of decentralization.
Ooh, a spectrum. That sounds intriguing. Break it down for us.
So on one end, you've got like Bitcoin
Mm-hmm.
running on its own blockchain, completely self-contained.
Okay, so like the hardcore purist approach.
Exactly. Then you have dApps built on existing blockchains, like Ethereum is a big one, of course.
So leveraging that infrastructure, the community that's already there.
Right. And then things get really wild when you start talking about dApps built on top of other dApps.
Whoa, wait, dApps on dApps? Is that even allowed?
It's like a whole ecosystem, right? One dApp uses a protocol developed by another. It's the future, man.
All right, so let's say someone listening is thinking, okay, I'm sold. I need to build my own dApp. Where do you even begin?
This guide actually has a whole section on that. 6 key steps. The first one, writing a white paper.
So it's more than just a formality in the dApp world, huh?
Oh, it's essential. Think of it like the dApp's mission statement. It's the blueprint. It's the rallying cry. It's
everything.
pretty much outlines the purpose, the tech behind it, how it's going to work, everything potential users and, crucially, contributors need to know.
Because this isn't some solo project in your basement, right? The community is huge for dApps.
Absolutely. The white paper, it's not just, here's my finished thing. It's like, hey, come on this journey with me. Let's build something amazing together.
Okay, so white paper's done. You've got your community hyped. Time to build this thing. What's the architecture of a dApp look like? Is it like building a house?
Kind of. But instead of just one blueprint, imagine everyone involved gets a copy.
Wait, seriously, that seems kind of inefficient. Everyone downloads the whole shebang.
That's what makes it so resilient. There's no single point of failure. You're not relying on some company's server.
Okay, I see the appeal, but how does this play out in the real world? Like, what's connecting my browser to this massive decentralized network?
That's where Web3.js comes in.
Yeah.
Think of it like the bridge between your browser and the blockchain.
So when I'm clicking around in a dApp, it's Web3.js doing the heavy lifting, not some server farm in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. It's what makes this whole thing tick.
All right, so we've laid the groundwork here, talked about what dApps are, how they work, all that good stuff. But now I want to see this tech in action. Give me some real-world examples.
Oh, this guide has got you covered. It actually mentions this platform, Ethercast.
Ethercast.
Yeah, though it looks like they've rebranded since this was written. It's State of the dApps now.
State of the dApps, catchy. What is that, some kind of dApp directory?
Exactly. It's like if the App Store went fully decentralized, you can browse through, see what people are building. It's pretty cool.
Okay, I'm sold. So what kind of gems can we unearth in this State of the dApps place?
Well, one that caught my eye is called btshiarelay.org, and it solves a pretty big problem in the crypto world.
And that problem is?
Bridging the gap between Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Ah, yeah. The two titans. Not exactly known for playing nicely together.
Right. So btshiarelay.org, it creates this, decentralized bridge between the two. You can actually use Bitcoin within dApps built on Ethereum.
Hold on. So I could potentially use Bitcoin to, participate in DeFi applications that are usually all about Ethereum.
You got it. It's all about interoperability, connecting these different ecosystems.
That's huge. Okay, that's one for the dApps solving real problems column. What else have we got?
All right. How about oraclize.eth? Now, this one's a bit more complex, but fascinating.
Oh, I'm sensing another deep dive coming on here. We might have to add that to the list.
For sure. But in a nutshell, Oraclize brings real-world data onto the blockchain.
Okay, now we're talking. So things like stock prices, weather data, stuff that's not on the blockchain, but could be super valuable for dApps.
Exactly. Imagine a smart contract that automatically pays out insurance claims based on weather data pulled in by Oraclize. Or a prediction market using real-time election results.
Mind blown. Okay, last one. Hit me with a dApp example that's just out there. Something that really shows the potential of this tech.
How about a movie?
A movie. As in on the blockchain.
Well, funded by it, at least.
Yeah.
This guy talks about the Pit Circus. It was the first ever film entirely funded through Ethereum.
Now that's just cool. So instead of going to Hollywood, they crowdfunded it with crypto.
Yep. Backers even got tokens in return. Gave them a stake in the film's success.
Talk about a power move. Okay, this Ethercast, or State of the dApps, sounds like a gold mine. I'm gonna have to check that out. But for now, we gotta shift gears a bit. From dApps to DAOs.
Ah, yes. Decentralized Autonomous Organizations. Sounds intimidating, but they're all about changing how we think about organizations, governance, the whole shebang.
Because usually when we hear organization, we think hierarchy, right? CEO, calling the shots, all that.
Right. DAOs, they flip the script. This guide actually compares them to LLCs, limited liability companies.
Okay, I kind of see where you're going with this. So instead of legal contracts and board meetings, it's all about the code.
Exactly. It's all on the blockchain. Once a DAO is deployed, it runs on autopilot, following the rules baked into its code.
And that's both incredibly cool and kind of terrifying at the same time.
Right. Like, what happens if something goes wrong? Who do you call when there's no CEO to yell at?
Exactly. It's uncharted territory.
It is. And to really wrap our heads around it, I think we got to get our hands dirty.
Oh, I love getting my hands dirty. Metaphorically speaking, of course. What are you thinking?
This guide actually walks through building a simple DAO, just to illustrate the core concepts. We can give that a shot.
I'm game. Let's build this DAO, or at least try to.
All right, so imagine this. We're building a decentralized platform for funding creative projects. Our DAO, it'll have a few basic functions. People can contribute funds, withdraw their contributions, check the balance, pretty straightforward.
Sounds like a typical crowdfunding platform so far. What makes it a DAO?
Well, none of this is managed by, a central authority. The guide shows some basic code. Solidity is what they use for Ethereum smart contracts. That code, it dictates how everything works.
So those lines of code, they're basically the rules of this mini organization, right?
Exactly. We decide how much people need to contribute, how withdrawals work, even build in rewards for active participants.
It's like we're baking the governance structure right into the code itself. No board meetings required.
Precisely. But, and this is crucial, even a small error in that code, it could have massive consequences. Which brings us to the DAO hack of 2016.
Oh boy, yeah. The $50 million cautionary tale. Listeners, buckle up. All right, so we've got to talk about it. The elephant in the room, or I guess the $50 million hole in the blockchain.
Yeah, the DAO hack of 2016.
Yeah.
Definitely a cautionary tale.
So for those who might not know, what happened? Was it some super sophisticated hack?
That's the thing, it wasn't. Remember how we were talking about the code being so important? Well, this DAO, it had a vulnerability right in the withdrawal function.
Wait, so no fancy hacking tricks? It was just bad code?
Essentially, yeah, a flaw in the logic. This noob's guide, it actually shows snippets of the code, and it all boils down to what they call a race condition.
Race condition. Okay, now you're just using programmer words to sound smart.
Not at all. Think of it like this. Imagine two people trying to buy the same thing online, right? But there's only one left. Whoever clicks buy first, they get it. A race condition in code, it's similar. The outcome depends on the order things happen in code.
Okay, so timing is everything? How did that take down a whole DAO?
So remember our example, the DAO for funding projects. you have that function to withdraw your contributions, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, the code, it sent the funds to the user's wallet before updating the DAO's balance.
Hold on. So it's like the cashier giving you your change before putting the money in the drawer.
Exactly. And that tiny gap, that's all it took. The hacker, they exploited this race condition. They could withdraw funds multiple times before the DAO realized the money was gone.
So they basically created the illusion that the money was still there while they were draining it dry. That's wild.
That was clever. Got to give them that.
It-
And the guide actually shows like a simplified version of the code the hacker used. It's not even that complicated.
Which just goes to show you don't need to be some coding genius to understand this stuff or to break it, apparently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the crazy part is a simple fix could have prevented the whole thing.
Really? Like,
Yeah.
how simple are we talking?
Just rearranging a couple lines of code, update the balance before releasing the funds. Problem solved.
Wow. Talk about a $50 million lesson in, like, double-checking your work.
Right. It really showed everyone, hey, this tech is amazing, but security can't be an afterthought.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've gone from the building blocks of dApps and DAOs to a $50 million heist, all thanks to this noob's guide.
It's a wild ride for sure.
It really is. Well, on that note, I think we're going to have to wrap up this deep dive. A huge thank you to Expert Speaker for, well, being an expert and guiding us through this.
Anytime. It's been fun.
And to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep learning, and until next time, happy diving.